Good morning. Don't say anything, just listen. Where are the people that are causing the killing in your area? Look on the terror sign. It says, call me God.
Welcome back to our channel, True Crime Enthusiasts. In the fall of 2002, the Washington, D.C. area became a hunting ground for an invisible predator, as random bullets claimed innocent lives at gas stations, schools, and shopping lots. John Allen Muhammad, a decorated Gulf War veteran turned sniper, orchestrated this reign of terror with his teenage accomplice, Lee Boyd Malvo, in a spree that left 10 dead and a nation paralyzed. The crime's sheer brutality, striking victims in mundane moments, from mowing lawns to pumping gas, shocked the world, blending cold calculation with senseless rage. Yet, Muhammad's story was bizarre, a disciplined soldier who embraced the Nation of Islam, only to spiral into a delusional jihad, fueled by divorce bitterness and alleged PTSD. His controversial death sentence in 2009 sparked debates. Was it justice or vengeance? Did military trauma forge this monster, or was it pure evil? What twisted a protector into a killer? Dive into this chilling true crime saga with us. Hit subscribe, like, and comment your theories below before we unravel the darkness. It was a biting cold morning in February 2002, the fog rolling thick through the streets of Tacoma, Washington, like a veil over unspoken horrors. America was still haunted by the ashes of 9/11, its collective nerves frayed, but here in this Pacific Northwest enclave, a more intimate evil stirred. John Allen Muhammad, 41, a battle-hardened Gulf War veteran and sharpshooter, had sculpted 17-year-old Lee Boyd Malvo, a rootless Jamaican teen, into his devoted apprentice. On February 16, Malvo strode up to the door of Kenya Cook, Muhammad's niece, feigning a casual drop-in. But this was no warm greeting. It was a brutal audition for allegiance. Malvo rapped on the wood. Cook answered with a smile, and in a flash, he squeezed the trigger at point-blank range. She collapsed in a heap, life extinguished before her body settled. The gunfire melted into the backdrop of barking dogs and rumbling traffic, unnoticed by neighbors. From his hidden perch, Muhammad nodded approval. This kill cemented Malvo's devotion, lighting the fuse on their path to infamy. What seemed isolated was the opening act in a meticulously orchestrated nightmare. As the chill of winter thawed into the restless haze of spring and summer, the pair became nomadic predators, turning the nation's interstates into corridors of death. They ghosted from coast to coast, unleashing violence in unlikely spots: the scorching asphalt of Los Angeles, Tucson's arid trails, Clearwater's steamy Florida beaches, Denton's vast Texas expanses, and Hammond's murky Louisiana wetlands. Every strike was executed with chilling precision, a distant rifle report from cover, a victim dropping without warning, the assailants dissolving into thin air. Envision a glaring Tucson day, a solitary stroller mid-step, abruptly toppled by an unseen projectile. No outcries, no pursuits, only the lingering riddle of why. Forensic links via ballistics would later expose these as trial runs, fine-tuning their lethality for a larger spectacle. Muhammad, scarred tactician from desert wars, orchestrated via a pilfered laptop, running Microsoft streets and trips, dotting virtual maps with targets like pins on a war board. These weren't mere slayings, they were rehearsals, whetting their appetite for escalation. Come September, their gaze fixed eastward, the atmosphere heavy with foreboding. On the 5th, under the fading dusk in Clinton, Maryland, Paul LaRuffa secured his pizzeria doors. A barrage of 6 shots exploded, tearing into him. He barely survived, but the duo fled with his computer and money, clues that would boomerang. This blend of theft and attempted murder foreshadowed worse. On September 14, Rupinder Oberoi pumped gas in Silver Spring, nozzle gripped, when a bullet skimmed him, sending him to the ground. He lived, yet dread deepened. The following day, Muhammad Rashid endured the same in Brandywine, swelling the list of scarred survivors. Violence surged on September 21 in Montgomery, Alabama. Claudine Parker and Kelly Adams locked their liquor outlet beneath twinkling stars. Bullets pierced the night. Parker perished instantly. Adams endured excruciating wounds. Hastily departing, they ditched a gun catalog laced with Malvo's prints and the .22 handgun, a fatal oversight. 2 days hence, on the 23rd, Hong Im Ballinger met her doom outside a Baton Rouge salon, Muhammad's native soil, a twisted return, as she was mugged and murdered. October stormed in, channeling the mayhem to DC's core, spawning the Beltway snipers. Legend. On the 2nd, a slug shattered a Michael's store pane in Aspen Hill, no harm, but an omen. Later, James D. Martin landscaped in Wheaton, felled mid-Mao. October 3 dawned catastrophic. James L. Buchanan mowed in Rockville, struck down. Cabby Premkumar Walakar refueled in Aspen Hill, eliminated. Sarah Ramos lounged on a Silver Spring bench, head wound. Lori Ann Lewis Rivera cleaned her Kensington van, silenced. Pascal Charlotte, 72-year-old Haitian craftsman, traversed a D.C. avenue, 5th victim that day. The cadence was merciless, snatching souls from routine drudgery. Randomness reigned, terror universal. October 14 Caroline Sowell grocery shopped in Fredericksburg, enduring a spinal hit. October 7-18 Aaron Brown alighted his Bowie bus, chest pierced, lung deflated, his ordeal broadcast fueling hysteria. Momentum built. October 9, vet Dean Harold Myers fueled in Manassas, headshot. October 11 Dad Kenneth Bridges gassed in Fredericksburg, dead. October 14 FBI's Linda Franklin at Falls Church Home Depot, spouse beside her, claimed. October 19 Jeffrey Hopper ate in Ashland, got wounded but surviving. October 22 Conrad Johnson drove his Silver Spring bus, abdomen ravaged, 10th DC fatality. Throughout, their blue Chevy Caprice served as a prowling fortress, trunk perforated for covert shots. Provocations heightened the dread. Call me God. On tarot cards, phoned extortions. The metropolis paralyzed, classrooms empty, events axed, people dodging open spaces. It was suburban siege warfare, peaking in a stranglehold of fear ensnaring millions. On a sultry December day in 1960, amid the sultry hum of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where jazz melodies wafted from front porches and the Mississippi River meandered lazily, John Allen Williams drew his first breath. The Deep South's vibrant pulse belied the shadows that would soon engulf his childhood, sowing the discord that defined a killer. By 1963, breast cancer claimed his mother, uprooting the family to New Orleans in a haze of sorrow. His father fled shortly after, abandoning young John to a fragmented upbringing under grandparents and aunts. This early desertion fermented deep instability, propelling the teen toward the military's unyielding structure as a refuge. At 17, in the sticky August heat of 1978, he joined the Louisiana National Guard in Baton Rouge, donning the mantle of combat engineer with disciplined strides into a world of regiments and resolve. The service molded him, channeling chaos into order. On November 6, 1985, he committed to the regular U.S. Army, mastering mechanics, trucking, and metalwork while emerging as an M16 expert. Talents destined for dark perversion. His deployment sketched a steadfast warrior. 1985 with the 15th Engineer Battalion at Misty Fort Lewis, Washington. 1991 in the Gulf War's scorching dunes, neutralizing Iraqi chemical warheads, and collecting accolades like the Southwest Asia Service Medal and dual Kuwait Liberation Medals. Returning in 1992 to Fort Ord, California, with the 13th Engineer Battalion, he savored the Pacific breeze. By 1993, back at Fort Lewis with the 14th, his 16-year tenure culminated in honorable discharge as sergeant on April 26, 1994. His uniform sparkled with honors: the Army Service Ribbon, National Defense Service Medal, Overseas Service Ribbon, Non-Commissioned Officers Professional Development Ribbon, and Army Achievement Medal, symbols of devotion now on the brink of collapse. In 1987, at 26, spirituality beckoned. He embraced the Nation of Islam, rechristening himself Muhammad in a quest for empowerment. He bolstered security at the 1995 Million Man March in D.C., immersed in a throng vowing upliftment, a fleeting high against his unraveling home front. 2 marriages imploded, the latter with Mildred Muhammad amid abuse claims, yielding a restraining order. Defying it with guns violated the Lautenberg Amendment, sparking legal fires. Despair crested in 1999, he abducted his children, fleeing to Antigua's tropical haze for credit card scams and fake visas. There, in October 2000, he encountered 15-year-old Lee Boyd Malvo, a forsaken Jamaican youth rummaging in an electronics shop after maternal abandonment. Muhammad spied opportunity, or manipulation, in the boy's vulnerability. By January 2001, Malvo resided with him, forging a distorted paternal tie. A brief separation ended in October 2001, with Malvo stowing to Bellingham, Washington, binding them in doom. This tapestry of ruin didn't merely wound Muhammad, it smelted his malice from fury and fantasy. Losing custody fueled venom toward Mildred, with unproven schemes to erase her for the kids. Personal ire swelled into cultural crusade, distorted via Nation of Islam into post-9/11 anti-US fanaticism, positioning him as jihadist avenger. In July 2002's Muggy Swelter, he unveiled to Malvo a terror blueprint: besiege D.C., extort 10 million, finance a Canadian enclave for orphan terrorists. Malvo, craving paternity and malleable, devoured indoctrination, Bin Laden videos, Malcolm X orations, recasting homicide as sacred duty. Experts dissected the psyche: narcissism ballooning self-importance, paranoia breeding phantoms, Gulf PTSD replaying toxic nightmares. It birthed a deity delusion, etched in a crime scene tarot. Call me God. Catalysts abounded: military sharpshooting and stealth repurposed a blue Chevy Caprice into a hidden kill zone. Post-service flops, business busts, vagrancy fanned estrangement. Malvo's migrant fragility rendered him ideal disciple, shaped as heir and executioner. Back to the status of the investigation. In the crisp October air of 2002, the Washington, D.C. area remained a ghost town. Its residents hunkered down behind locked doors, gas pumps abandoned, and schoolyards silent. The Beltway snipers had turned everyday errands into Russian roulette, but the net was tightening. On October 20, investigators in a dimly lit command center sifted through a flood of tip-line calls, cross-referencing frantic voices with emerging patterns. Among them, cryptic confessions from the killers themselves, boastful hints dropped like breadcrumbs, began to align, painting a picture of arrogance that would prove their undoing. The breakthrough cracked open the next day, October 21, when a chilling phone call from the snipers traced back to a payphone in Glen Allen, Virginia. "You've got us." The voice taunted, demanding ransom. But the trace gave authorities a geographic fix, narrowing the hunt to a shadowy web of highways and rest stops. By October 23, the puzzle pieces slammed together like a closing trap. Ballistics experts in a stereo lab matched shell casings from the September Alabama liquor store shooting, where Claudine Parker lay dead and Kelly Adams clung to life to a .22 pistol, its pages smeared with fingerprints that screamed Lee Boyd Malvo. Witnesses' sketches of a suspicious blue Chevrolet Caprice, seen lurking near multiple crime scenes, led straight to vehicle records naming John Allen Muhammad as the owner. His military background, the Antiguan connections, it all clicked. A nationwide Bulo alert blasted across airwaves and highways: 2 suspects, armed and deadly, in a 1990 Caprice with New Jersey plates. That very night, under a moonlit sky along Interstate 70 in Myersville, Maryland, a vigilant trucker at a rest stop spotted the car, its occupants dozing like they owned the shadows. He dialed it in, and within hours, SWAT teams descended in a whirlwind of flashing lights and barked commands. Doors ripped open. Muhammad and Malvo were yanked from their mobile lair, handcuffed and Mirandized on October 24. Inside the trunk, the Bushmaster rifle, scopes, maps dotted with kill sites, and a hole drilled for sniper fire. federal weapons charges hit Muhammad immediately. His restraining order violation, now a federal felony, while the duo's reign of terror ended not with a bang, but a sleepy surrender. The machinery of justice revved up fast. On October 25, prosecutors in a packed press conference unveiled a cascade of charges, from murder to terrorism, framing the attacks as a calculated campaign. By October 29, Virginia, eager to claim jurisdiction under its tough-on-crime laws, filed capital murder counts against both, invoking a post-9/11 terrorism statute that allowed the death penalty for acts sowing widespread fear. The trials loomed like storm clouds, but the turning point unfolded in the courtroom drama that gripped the nation. Muhammad's first major showdown kicked off in October 2003, not in the sniper-scarred suburbs, but in the coastal calm of Virginia Beach, relocated for a shot at impartial jurors untouched by the local panic. At 42, Muhammad strode in with a defiant glare, opting to represent himself in a move that turned the proceedings into a circus of the macabre. He cross-examined witnesses with rambling, bizarre questions, probing about astrological signs or irrelevant tangents, drawing gasps from the gallery and rebukes from the bench. "This is my life on the line," he snarled, but his amateur theatrics crumbled quickly, forcing him to hand the reins to court-appointed attorneys who painted him as a manipulative mastermind. The evidence was a prosecutor's dream, unspooling like a horror reel. Ballistics experts testified how every fatal bullet matched the Bushmaster XM-15 rifle found in the Caprice, its barrel grooves etched into the casings like a signature. The car itself became Exhibit A, a rolling death chamber with GPS data logging routes to each shooting, the trunk modified into a sniper's blind. Malvo's jailhouse drawings surfaced, crude sketches depicting the attacks as jihad missions, complete with stick figure victims and triumphant captions. Phone records replayed the taunts calls to hotlines boasting, "We are God," demands for 10 million wired to a stolen credit card. Survivors took the stand, voices trembling. Aran Brown, the schoolboy with a scarred lung, Paul LaRuffa, riddled with bullets but unbowed, recounting the split-second terror that shattered their worlds. Muhammad's defense floundered, claiming coercion or innocence, but the jury saw through it. Verdict day came on November 17, 2003, guilty on all counts: capital murder for Dean Myers' slaying, terrorism for the broader spree, conspiracy with Malvo. The penalty phase was raw, families of the dead pouring out grief, widows clutching photos, children recounting fatherless birthdays. On November 24, the jury recommended death, citing the violence of the crimes. Judge Leroy F. Millett formalized it on March 9, 2004, sentencing Muhammad to the needle. Malvo, tried apart as a juvenile turned 18, faced his own reckoning, copping to life without parole on March 10, after a deal spared him execution. But the saga dragged on. In October 2004, Malvo pleaded guilty to more Virginia charges: Kenneth Bridges' murder, Caroline Sewell's shooting, piling on additional life terms. Appeals became the next battlefield. The Virginia Supreme Court upheld Muhammad's death sentence on April 22, 2005, rejecting claims of unfair trial or insufficient evidence. That summer, in May, Muhammad agreed to extradition to Maryland, where more ghosts awaited. Arriving in Montgomery County in August 2005, his trial there erupted in May 2006, with a bombshell. Malvo, flipping for leniency, testified against his former father on May 23. Under oath, the teen detailed the phases of their plot. Phase 1. 6 whites a day for 30 days. Phase 2. Bombs at cop funerals. Phase 3. Extortion-funded terror camps. It was chilling, Malvo's voice steady as he described Muhammad's indoctrination. Conviction followed on May 30 for 6 murders, with 6 consecutive life sentences hammered down on June 1. No parole ever. Malvo got his own Maryland life terms in November 2006. Appeals lingered like smoke, challenging everything from jury selection to the terrorism label. but the wheels of justice ground forward, inexorably pointing to the execution chamber, where Muhammad's story would end. In the stark isolation of Sussex State Prison in Waverly, Virginia, where the air hung heavy with the finality of condemned men, John Allen Muhammad entered death row in 2004, a fortress of concrete and regret that would define his waning days. The former sniper, now 43, oscillated between brazen defiance and quiet surrender, his once commanding presence reduced to scribbled missives from a cell block echo chamber. By May 2008, in a handwritten letter smudged with the ink of delusion, he demanded an end to all appeals, boldly asserting his innocence amid a mountain of ballistic evidence, witness testimonies, and his own accomplice's damning words. "I am not guilty," he scrawled, but the courts, unmoved by his protests, set the execution date for November 10, 2009, a ticking clock that amplified the nation's lingering unease. As autumn leaves fell that fateful year, last-minute pleas for clemency flooded in, from human rights groups decrying the death penalty to lawyers arguing procedural flaws. But the walls held firm. On November 9, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered its final blow, denying review and sealing Muhammad's fate. Transferred to Greensville Correctional Center in rural Jarrett, Virginia, a nondescript facility ringed by barbed wire and guarded silence, he faced his end with stoic calm. That evening, under the harsh glare of institutional lights, he savored a last meal, fried chicken slathered in red sauce, accompanied by cake, a mundane feast belying the gravity of the moment. At precisely 9:06 p.m. EST, guards strapped the 48-year-old to the gurney in the execution chamber, veins exposed for the lethal cocktail. The drugs flowed: sodium thiopental to sedate, pancuronium bromide to paralyze, potassium chloride to stop the heart. No final statement escaped his lips, no apologies, no rants, just silence as the monitors flatlined. Pronounced dead at 9:11 p.m., his body was swiftly cremated, the ashes handed to his son in Louisiana, scattering the remnants of a man who had sown terror across a nation. Closure came unevenly in the aftermath. Lee Boyd Malvo, the teenage triggerman turned lifer, has since voiced remorse in prison interviews, grappling with the manipulation that defined his youth. Victims' families, haunted by random bullets that stole loved ones at gas pumps and grocery lots, found fragile peace in justice served. Yet questions lingered like gun smoke. How did profiling biases, fixating on a white van suspect, prolong the hunt? The case ignited fierce debates on gun control, exposing cracks in America's defenses against domestic rage. 2 decades later, the D.C. sniper ordeal endures as a grim parable, a true crime chronicle of how one man's festering grievances can explode into collective nightmare, forever altering the landscape of fear. And that's the chilling close to the D.C. sniper saga video over. Smash that like, subscribe for more true crime, and drop your thoughts in the comments.